Recently, I've been doing some spring cleaning with old files even though it's the middle of winter when I'm writing the script, and accidentally stumbled upon this image dated to the 26th of September 2015. So my immediate first reaction is, well, why do I have this image? And the second one is, where does this image come from? Now, figuring this out should be pretty easy. The background and font used are clearly indicative of this being an Angry Birds game, which is why I'm talking about this to begin with. The logical first step is to look up who this guy is. I found him on LinkedIn pretty easily. This is Geo Jackson, a lead game designer and producer based in Espoo, Finland, exactly where Rovio is based. He's a firm supporter of the book Build, an unorthodox guide to making things worth making by Tony Fadell, and looks forward to the use of generative AI in the workplace, but those are both besides the point. What we're interested in is his work history at Rovio Entertainment Corporation. Let's build a timeline. Between March 2015 to March 2016, he was the lead game programmer for Angry Birds Friends. From April 2016 onward, he worked up the ranks from producer to production director at Rovio until leaving in around June 2020. Notably, during this time, he worked extensively on both Angry Birds Friends and Angry Birds 2. But as a reminder, the earliest date linked to this photo was September 2015. Therefore, the most viable candidate for where this photo originates from is Angry Birds Friends. Great, let's download the game and find it. Wow, that's a lot of names. For some reason, I took the liberty of transcribing all the credits into a text file, so you can find that in the description, I guess. Notable findings include the really weird vertical spacing of the special thanks header. Oh no, I just found that funny. And Geo Jackson's name appears twice, but neither appearance has a golden egg in it. In fact, I checked. The version of Angry Birds Friends I was playing as of January 2024 doesn't have any golden eggs in the credits of the game. So, what now? Look, just because I couldn't find it in the modern version of the game doesn't mean it never existed. Games change over time, and Angry Birds Friends especially has a nightmarish history of changes. Let's go back to the timeline. During the Adobe Max event hosted in 2011, a new Angry Birds game was being presented in a keynote by Rovio's former general manager of North America, Andrew Stalbo, hilariously referred to as Andrew Stablo by the Angry Birds fandom wiki. It would have new levels, a leaderboard, and brand new particle effects, courtesy of running on Adobe Flash Player 11, which was new at the time. It also wasn't Angry Birds Friends. This was Angry Birds Flash, and it's now considered lost media. During the presentation, there was a local host demo, but then the game was never released or spoken of ever again. Instead, in February 2012, these slated features would be reused in Angry Birds Facebook, a flashport of the original game hosted on, well, Facebook. This version of the game had the aforementioned leaderboard, but also introduced power-ups to the franchise for the first time. These included Kingsling, which allows the player to shoot the birds farther than normal for the rest of the level, Sling Scope, which allows the player to see the exact trajectory of the bird for the rest of the level, Super Seeds, which increases the size of the current bird, and Birdquake, which causes a minor earthquake. It also included the then-exclusive bonus episode Surf and Turf, which was based around beaches and surfing and thunderstorms. In April 2012, 10 golden eggs were added, although they were originally called Easter eggs because they were released for an Easter event. And now see, this is where my sources diverged. According to the Angry Birds fandom wiki, the third golden egg, the one that I've been looking for this entire time, could be found in the O of Jonas Nyman. However, there are no pictures or sources provided for this. On the other hand, according to Angry Birds Nest, the same golden egg is found in the name Ari Arnbjornsen, with video evidence this time. Later, in May 2012, the name was changed to Angry Birds Friends as it was ported to iOS and Android, no longer being web exclusive, but still using Facebook for its social elements. Hi, sorry, cutting in here for a second. That's a mistake. So I don't know why they changed the name from Angry Birds Facebook to Angry Birds Friends, because it wasn't even out on mobile at this time. It actually released on mobile in May 2013, not May 2012. I don't know. It's fine. Yeah, that's it. Now, I could end it here and say that this is all we know about the timeline, but just to clear up the divergence discrepancy, it should be noted that Jonas worked as the lead Flash programmer on Angry Birds Friends between September 2012 and January 2015, while Ari was a senior Flash programmer for Flash-based Angry Birds projects since 2011 up until 2014. This was the man who worked on the Flash engine for the many sponsored web-exclusive Angry Birds games, and even did programming for the Adobe Max demo. You know, the one that's lost media. Okay. So, now that we have evidence that Ari had this golden egg in April 2012, and a mild suggestion that Jonas had it sometime between September 2012 and January 2015, we must ask, what happened for the rest of 2015? But before we continue, I need to address something. So I've been looking through the script to do voiceover, and I've noticed I've made a really big assumption that I probably shouldn't have. That the general audience knows more than they probably actually do about Angry Birds. I know it's not conclusive, but talking to people in my real life about this project has made it clear to me that while a good number of people know of Angry Birds, not a lot of people know about it. For instance, the characters' names, or the episode themes, or even what the golden eggs are. And you know, that makes sense. Angry Birds isn't the cultural phenomenon it used to be. It's not as popular or in the zeitgeist as it was in, say, 2012. So, let's take a step back and talk about what I'm actually looking for. This isn't a lost media situation. I know exactly where the image itself came from, my camera in 2015. That part isn't the issue. What I'm looking for is the contents of the image, more specifically the version of the game that has a golden egg in Geo Jackson's name. This thing. So, I need to explain what a golden egg is. Luckily, I have a presentation for this, if I can find... Okay, there it is. You'd have to forgive that, it was a while ago. Yeah. A golden egg, as the name suggests, is basically a collectible represented by a golden-colored egg that unlocks bonus levels, like the one that you can see on screen right now. It can be found... Okay, hang on, we don't need to, this is old, I'm sorry, okay. Inside of levels, where you either need to hit the egg with a bird or other collectible item to collect it, or do some set of complicated steps in an attempt to reveal what the level might suggest. Good essence of the presence of non-essential elements on the screen indicating not related to the build. And you start with recognition that the angle is position. You'll spend hours of debug trying to get this right. Shoot the bird with revisions to collisions you envision. If you fail, try again, or just look up a guide. There's a lot of them out there. Angry Birds Nest has some great ones. Some of the solutions are just really unintuitive, not especially beginner-friendly, not especially, like friendly to experts either. Like it's a difficult, they are difficult to get, and there's no shame in looking up a guide. I mean, like, we all need help sometimes. Sorry, where was I? Right, by completing levels with a certain amount of stars at the end, this can range from earning 30 stars in any set of levels within the episode to 3-starring every level in the episode. This is what I mean by not beginner-friendly. This takes a lot of time. In the UI, like in the tutorial pop-up screen or the store menu in Angry Birds Facebook, and yes, in the credits of the game. Now, that's the end. That's the end of the... Okay. Not all Angry Birds games have golden eggs, and some of them call them different things, like egg steroids, golden droids, or Easter eggs, but they function essentially the exact same across games. A notable exception is Angry Birds Rio, in which the non-star-based bonus levels are unlocked by collecting all the golden fruit within an episode. Now, I say this applies to the games because of that one time a golden egg was a plot device in the Angry Birds Stella TV series. I should really make a video analyzing that at some point. That's besides the point, though. So, with that out of the way, let's get back to... What was I doing before? Oh, right. And so, I began my search for anyone, literally anyone, who could prove that this image is real for a version of Angry Birds Friends that existed at some point. Looking on Google for Golden Egg and Geo Jackson yields only one result: an Angry Birds Nest comment by user MCK at MCKWXP, with replies from Angry Angers at Donovan. It confirms the chronology of Ari, then Jonas, then Geo. But unfortunately, comments on Angry Birds Nest are not time-stamped, meaning I don't know when these comments were posted. According to Angry Birds Nest, the documented updates released to Angry Birds Friends throughout 2015 include version 1.8.2, improvements, version 1.9.0, daily spin, version 2.0.0, bug fixes, and version 2.1.0, Halloween. So we have a time frame, but we can do better. You see, Geo Jackson isn't the only person listed in this image. There's also Erison Da Silva, Stefan Friedrichsen, and Robert Bogacki. If we could find their working periods at Rovio, we could significantly narrow down when this golden egg could have been in the game. So, let's go back to the time, okay, that's messy. Actually, you know what? Let's just make an entirely new timeline. Oh, okay. Can I just borrow this for a second? Thank you.
Wait, no, wait.
Okay. Oh, there's a lot of apps here. No. Oh, Minecraft. Yeah, sure. We'll go with that. The lower and upper bounds for this timeline go from January 2015 to December 2016, just so that it's not a nightmare to look at or for me to build. As you hopefully remember, Geo Jackson worked as the lead game programmer for Angry Birds Friends between March 2015 to March 2016. This is not new information. According to LinkedIn, Stefan Friedrichsen was the design lead on Angry Birds Friends from September 2013 to November 2015. Since this timeline only goes back as far as January 2015, I'll just leave that as is. Similarly, Robert Bogacki was the lead server programmer on the back end of Angry Birds Friends from October 2012 to July 2015, so his line will appear to start at January 2015 like before. Finally, for Erison Da Silva, I accidentally made a mistake when recording the Minecraft footage back in February. See, I initially thought that the only information on Erison could be found on his Moby Games page, where it lists his involvement as just 2013 Android. What I failed to realize was that his LinkedIn was literally linked at the bottom of the page. That being said, the information on his LinkedIn doesn't really help with the timeline, as the time period wherein he could have appeared in these credits, presumably as a producer or executive producer, was from May 2013 to November 2016, so it really doesn't narrow it down. Anyway, we can see by inspection that the intersection between these career lines is the period of March 2015 to July 2015, which narrows down the possible versions to 1.8.2 and 1.9.0. But now we're at an impasse. I'm not sure how to further narrow this down. By the way, for those thinking that this couldn't possibly be the right time interval, since the date of the original picture being taken was in September of 2015, it should be noted that I forgot to mention something kind of crucial. I had, and still have, quite frankly, a bad habit of not updating my apps. As such, it's very possible that at the time the image was taken, my Angry Birds Friends version was wildly out of date. The only reason why I can't date the image any further back than March 2015 is because of Geo. Otherwise, this could have been a version dating all the way back to 2013. So that brings me to this part. I don't really know how to say it. Out of stubbornness, or maybe it's spite, I asked on Reddit. I know. Can't be worse than the Angry Birds Dream series, though, can it? What, it made a lot of money? Damn. Oh, you're back. Well, when we last left off, I asked Reddit for some reason, so let's check that out now, I guess. On a Reddit post I made, there were only 2 comments responding to my help request. The first, from user UUltra0000, suggests that it's from the Flash version of Angry Birds Friends, which isn't particularly helpful because we've already deduced that. The second, from user u/thatoneclod, posits an alternative. The image instead depicts Angry Birds Chrome. This is an interesting guess, but it's probably wrong for 2 reasons. 1. That's not what the credits of Angry Birds Chrome looks like. At least from what I can tell from recreations and footage from 2011, the credits of Angry Birds Chrome didn't have its own screen. Instead, they appeared on a sidebar with a teal background, rather than the background of the image. 2. There wouldn't have been a need for a lead Flash programmer, since Angry Birds Chrome didn't run on Flash. Sort of. Okay, I'm going to have to explain how Angry Birds Chrome works. I mean, I don't have to, but I want to, so... Angry Birds Chrome uses a combination of GWT and ForPlay for Chrome compatibility. This probably means nothing to you, so let's take a step back. Angry Birds is a physics-based game, which means it must have a physics engine, some way to calculate the positions and velocities of birds and pigs and blocks and stuff when they move around the screen. As is fairly common knowledge, meaning I don't need to cite this, Angry Birds uses Box 2D to simulate its physics. As it says in its documentation, Box 2D is written in a portable C11. As such, the original Angry Birds would have been written in C or C++. I mean, it's technically lower, but we don't care about that. The thing about Chrome, and most other browsers, is that it uses HTML5 and JavaScript to display interactive content, not C, C++. This is where GWT comes in. GWT, yes, I promise that's how it's pronounced, stands for Google Web Toolkit, and it forms the entire basis for Angry Birds Chrome. I watched a 45-minute talk for this, so the next 3 minutes or so is going to be me summarizing it badly. Go watch the video for yourself if you want more detail. GWT is a web development toolkit for creating and optimizing web-based apps and games and stuff. A short explanation is basically that it allows you to write web apps in Java and release them in JavaScript, but that's a bit of an oversimplification. Technically speaking, you could do the same things Gwt does if you're familiar and comfortable with HTML and JavaScript, but not everyone is, so this is for those people. You like Java? Java has a port of Box2D called JBox2D. Yes, I know, very creative. The Gwt team then took this Java port and turned it into JavaScript for a thing called GwtBox2D. Do you want to guess how long this took? Allegedly about half an hour. But Gwt doesn't just translate Java into JavaScript, it also does a bunch of other things to make the code smaller and faster, like removing unused code, doing function inlining, that is, the process of replacing every function call with the body of the callee. This should only really be done with small functions, especially if they're called repeatedly, as the program size will increase kind of drastically. The upside is that the program will run faster due to the engine not needing to optimize every function call, heavily obfuscating the result, making the code difficult for people to understand, often for security reasons or intellectual property rights, and perfect caching, which I'll show by demonstration. This is the client, aka your computer, and this is the web server, aka the computer that originally hosted all of the content and stuff. With perfect caching, a copy of the game is downloaded once from the server into your browser, preserving the source code forever, or as good as forever anyway, allowing you to play the game regardless of whether you're on or offline. If an update needs to happen, a new cache is downloaded and a Gwt booster script redirects you to the new cache file instead. However, each platform and each browser is different. Even different installations of Chrome are different, for example whether or not WebGL is installed, or if you're playing the game on a computer versus on a mobile device. So, to fully optimize games between platforms, the Gwt team created for playing, not to be confused with for playing, and is now called PlayN. It basically allows the same Java code to be used across platforms without having to worry about the limitations that come with each platform. It's platform agnostic. It doesn't know what platform or platforms the program is being developed for, and it doesn't matter. The programmer doesn't need to worry, and the Gwt internally optimizes the game for the platform it's being played on, in this case HTML and JavaScript, with WebGL if it's present. So, Angry Birds Chrome runs on Java technically, but really it's just HTML, no Flash required. Kind of. Okay, so back in 2011, shortly after the game came out, there was an issue that some people reported where the game asked you for Adobe Flash Player. Now, this is odd, mostly because the game doesn't use Adobe Flash for any of the actual gameplay. Well, the thing is, the Gwt library used to handle audio, called Gwt Voices and written by Fred Sauer, not only supports HTML5 audio, but also has fallbacks to Flash and BG Sound on Internet Explorer 6. Now, why would it need to fall back? To keep it short and simple, HTML5 audio is garbage, and here's why. It's missing a lot of functionality, like looping, volume control, stereo panning, among many other useful utilities. The audio latency is incredibly unreliable and inconsistent. If you play rhythm games, you know what I'm talking about. There can be a little bit of latency, but it needs to be consistent, otherwise people will notice something's off, and worse, it can delay user input, making the application feel slow and unresponsive. And short buffers are hard to manage. If the signal for an audio cue is sent and needs to be received in a short amount of time, often a few milliseconds. Taking into account all the other stuff that's happening and needs to happen in a single frame, especially in the case of Angry Birds, the physics calculations and the rendering, the scheduling for the next queue isn't going to be consistent. So, yeah, Flash is sometimes used as a fallback for the audio in case the HTML5 audio doesn't work, which it mostly doesn't because, again, it's garbage. So, in short, Angry Birds Chrome doesn't need a Flash programmer because it runs entirely on HTML5 and JavaScript, with it sometimes needing Flash but only for the audio. The photo isn't from Angry Birds Chrome. Now that we've narrowed it down to just 2 versions, 1.8.2 and 1.9.0, we can at least start looking for a functioning version. Luckily, the Internet Archive does have copies of old versions of most mainstream Angry Birds games, but there's just one small problem. What file format do they use? IPA. If you're not seeing the issue, don't worry, I didn't either. The IPA, not that one either. File format is an archive format for applications running on iOS. If you're still not seeing the issue, 1, I don't own an iOS device, 2, I don't know anyone who uses an iOS device, and 3, even if I did, I still couldn't run the application without breaking the law. I need to try to explain this. No, I don't. Hi, it's me again from editing. No, I don't need to explain this because technically it's not breaking the law. It's more so breaking the law if you get, like, copyrighted material and download them, illegally, because even though, yes, the Internet Archive has an exemption from copyright law because they need to be able to host copyrighted material in order to preserve it, that's fine. The users of the Internet Archive are not protected by, copyright law. So, like, you can still be, infringing copyright if you distribute or download the copyrighted material. That's like, I'm tired. There was originally a tangent in here about copyright law and like DRM protection, and I just don't want to do it. So we're not keeping that in the script. If you read the script, you'll see that there's a little blurb there where I started talking about it and then gave up. So, yeah, we're just not doing it, okay? Just pretend like I went on the spiel and we'll continue from there, okay? But you know what? None of this matters. You know why? This entire time, I've been looking for a playable version on mobile, because I assumed I was using my old Lenovo tablet that used to show up in, like, recordings from 2011, but no! There's one glaring detail that I just overlooked. The mouse cursor. Yeah, I did research into this, and eventually found out that golden eggs aren't even in the mobile version, but the clues were right there in the beginning. Had I noticed the clear computer screen, I wouldn't have spent my time meticulously researching how iPhones worked in a futile effort to install a mobile version that wouldn't have been sufficient anyway. Okay. So, on the 8th of October, I spent my early morning, instead of sleeping, scouring the Internet Archive for any old computer-compatible versions of Angry Birds Friends, bookmarking anything that looked remotely useful. Funny thing about that, it got hacked the next day. God damn it! Now, let's take a break for a second. Now, you may be asking, why are you doing this? Why are you so adamant on finding proof for a picture that basically no one cares about? That's a good question. After all, it's not like I'm blowing the doors open on some large-scale issue plaguing an industry or a massive corporation like Disney. Let's be frank, this is a game series that people stopped caring about years ago. So, why? In a word, records. Just bear with me. Rovio has a, shall we say, dubious history of keeping track of their own history, which means I need to talk about... Do I have to? I do? Okay, fine. I need to talk about #BringBack2012. What happened in 2012? Well, in terms of Rovio's output, a lot. Notably, 2012 saw the release of Angry Birds Seasons episodes Year of the Dragon, Cherry Blossom, Piglantis, Back to School, Haunted Hogs, and Winter Wonderham. Temporarily sponsored games like Angry Birds Telepizza, Angry Birds Coca-Cola, Angry Birds Hanky, Angry Birds Fuji TV, Angry Birds Philadelphia Eagles, Angry Birds McDonald's, Angry Birds Lotus F1 Team, Angry Birds Cheetos, and Angry Birds and Ultrabook Trademark Adventure. Cancelled games like Bad Piggy's Build, also known as Angry Birds Build, and Angry Birds Pinball, which I don't have any footage of because I don't think anyone has any footage of this. Anyway, and also brand new mainline games, including Angry Birds Star Wars, Angry Birds Space, Angry Birds Trilogy, which was a console release consisting of the original game, Seasons, and Rio, Bad Piggies, and Angry Birds Facebook, whatever that is. Additionally, according to the Guinness World Records, the Angry Birds franchise was the first mobile game franchise to receive over 1 billion downloads. Of course, there isn't a citation for this, because it's Guinness, what were you expecting? And admittedly, Rovio reported this number themselves, but I'm sure they have no reason to lie about this. Wait, who's that? We'll come back to that later, but for now, here's the takeaway from all that information. 2012 is considered the golden age of Rovio and Angry Birds for these reasons. So why do people want to bring it back? That's a good question. In order to answer it, I reached out to some prominent people in the Angry Birds online space, to conduct some interviews, and the results were interesting. Let's start at the beginning. What is the hashtag actually about? Well, going back to around 2018 to 2019, plush collector Maximus Overdrive started to use the hashtag during a stale place in the franchise as a call to action to return to what he saw as the peak of the franchise. That is, less microtransactions and before the movie character designs were spread everywhere. However, the phrase was later co-opted by the rest of the Angry Birds community when in 2019, the year of the 10th anniversary, Rovio suddenly delisted most of the Angry Birds games that were released up until 2015 to 2016, for some reason. The goal shifted to wanting the old games back, not just from 2012, maintaining them for the foreseeable future, as good as forever, and overall including more fan input and embracing its entire history. So, about that. We know why the old games were delisted, actually. Well, there's technically two reasons. The one presented by Rovio was that the original games ran on older technology, so continuing to produce high-quality updates and maintenance for them wasn't seen as feasible. The second reason is more speculative, but there's pretty few reasons to suggest that the games were delisted so that newer titles would have the chance to shine. And that's fair, I guess, because from a business perspective, you'd want to push your newer products. The downside is that from a consumer perspective, that's not what the people want at all. I mean, it might be partially nostalgia, but people prefer the older titles, probably because they're not Candy Crush, they're Angry Birds. In June 2021, shortly after the Angry Birds Twitter account, rebranded to the corporate mascot Fred, posted a humorous tweet acknowledging the hashtag, Rovio released a statement in the form of a letter to our fans. The letter itself was basically saying that they were committed to better communication and that, the old games would be returning in some fashion. Less than a year after that, Rovio released Rovio Classics Angry Birds, a supposedly 2012-style remake of the original Angry Birds. The fan response? Initially positive, until people actually played it and realized it was full of bugs, inaccuracies, and physics problems that came from using the modern Angry Birds Friends engine, Unity, instead of the original. It was also the only remake made. Yeah, it wasn't perfect, but at least it was something. Maybe even a sign of change. What happened in 2023? Oh, it's gone now. To the outside, this felt really sudden, but on the inside, there was something more interesting happening. In February 2023, community manager Sean Buckaloo and head of brand strategy Ben Matz, aka Mook, invited several prominent Angry Birds community members to an insider Discord server where questionable legal decisions were made. Other than that, Rovio stated their plans for a loyalty service called Reds Club, which could have been a platform for bringing back the old games. To be fair, it did eventually manifest, but as just like a platform for discounts, and none of the other old games came back. The day before the announcement, the server was briefed on what'll happen to Rovio Classics Angry Birds, and told to basically just do damage control because they're basically authorities in the Angry Birds community anyway, and people listen to them. Yeah, so you can probably guess what happened next. People were upset, obviously. The fans felt like they were betrayed, like Rovio took their trust and threw it away. Later in 2023, the community made a Google document called A Letter from the Fans, mirroring a letter to our fans, consisting of testimonials documenting the concerns and disappointments from people across the Angry Birds fandom. These concerns were addressed in the Discord in the most corporate way possible, which is to say, largely ignored. I found in the interviews that while people thought very highly of Angry Birds as it used to be, in recent times it's become harder and harder to continue enjoying the franchise, primarily due to corporate decisions that continually undermine the consumer's desires for the franchise. The chemistry is gone. Angry Birds is seen as a shell of its former self. And yeah, while personally I didn't think that 2012 was the peak of Angry Birds output, I mean, I'd say it's 2014 because of Angry Birds Stella, it was definitely the height of its popularity, and after that, people just kind of got tired of it. Of course, the release of the movie helped popularity in the short term, but it seems in recent years, Rovio's been trying to desperately recapture that success with diminishing returns. They've taken the Angry Birds brand and made it exactly that, a brand, just like every other brand in existence. They can just slap a red bird on something and it becomes an Angry Birds game. This is depressing. Right, let's get out of this hole. Right. How many Angry Birds games are there? According to a spreadsheet I made in 2021, over 100. Okay, but what does Rovio think? Can't we just go on their website and count them? Yes. Yes, we can. Counting all the games, we get 30, but counting only the downloadable ones gets us to 16. Oh. Where did the rest of the games go? I mean, Rovio has a backlog of 15 years of games to show, so why aren't they here? You can't say they aren't marketable, because as shown before, the market definitely exists. Well, the truth is, I don't know. And Rovio as a company doesn't owe us anything, much less an explanation. They're a company, a business, just like Guinness is a business. I'm not saying this to be disparaging, that's just how the world works. They want your money. They want to increase their bottom line. It makes sense. But by only marketing the newer products, Rovio is effectively engaging in a form of historical negationism, the act of omitting or otherwise distorting historical events, often to suit a specific narrative. For example, Angry Birds Stella, Tiny Thief, and Amazing Alex aren't important to the way Angry Birds is marketing itself now, so they are ignored for the most part. Really, it's a marketing tactic, sanitizing the history to make it more digestible and, well, marketable. And there's nothing necessarily inherently wrong with that. I mean, people do it all the time. It only becomes an issue when trying to discuss objective history, or as close to objective history as we can get. When trying to describe history as it was, and not prescribing some other meaning onto it, like trying to appeal to investors, for example. In doing this project, I became really invested in media preservation because it's a worthwhile effort to see history as it was, so we can both learn about and learn from it in the future. An interesting question when it comes to media preservation is that of what media is worth preserving. Because in an ideal world, it would be all of it, but real life has some constraints and biases that make this a little muddled. For example, should footage of violent crimes be preserved? Should blackface be preserved? Should media of human rights violations of any kind be preserved? There's an argument to be made that every piece of media, from the mundane to the grotesque, has some value to someone. The question of worth is inherently subjective. Different people will find worth in different things, and it's because of this subjectivity that lost media cases happen to begin with. Lost media, at the time they originally existed, become lost for a number of reasons, but they tend to come down to it's not worth keeping or it's not worth remembering. For instance, lots of Doctor Who episodes are missing because the original videotapes weren't seen as having much value after broadcast. Also, it was for cost-saving reasons because they didn't have the money to, spend on more videotapes. Time only moves in one direction and cannot be stopped, and history is dragged along with it. When the people who remembered events as they were, or close enough to how they were, are dying or dead, there is no way to retrieve that information. So, herein lies the necessity of memory and history preservation. I said that in an Old English assignment. There, attribution. But see, the frustrating part about this project was the time frame in which I was looking for this photo. September 2015. That's definitely after the peak of Angry Birds' popularity in 2012 to 2013, and before the resurgence of interest in Angry Birds through the movie and nostalgia. Effectively, the exact period of time where no one cared. As such, there's barely any public documentation of Angry Birds friends during this time. I mean, before? Yes. After? Definitely. But just not during. I mean, there is this one video of the October 2015 version that lines up exactly with the image, but there's no golden egg there. And see, I mentioned public documentation because there's a rather high chance that this media exists, but it's just not public. And that's fine. I'm sure this means more to you than it does to me. I did some more digging into some old files, and you know what I found? Matt Damon. Okay, a bit more than that. On the same day this image was captured, several other images were also taken, including this one, which has an advertisement displaying an ongoing tournament at the time, a collaboration with Matt Damon's water charity, water.org. Oh my god, Postman Pig, hi, I love you! This confirms that my Angry Birds Friends version was, in fact, completely up to date. So my previous hypothesis about, oh, I don't update my apps. No, no. Because it was a web version, it had to be up to date, and... right, fine. So, the version must have been 2.0.0, bug fixes, and we're done. I guess. The one thing I haven't done is I haven't found footage of this golden egg's existence. I've gotten close, but no dice. I gave myself a deadline of the 15th anniversary to get this done so that I would have a deadline so I couldn't keep procrastinating forever. And it's December 10th. And I don't know where it is. I don't know what version it is. Well, I know the version. I can't verify it. I can't verify it, and that's what gets me. Because I know the time, and I can pin it down to the Angry Birds Nest forum of the updates, and I know what version it is. 2.0.0, but the frustrating thing is that I cannot verify that it's there. I think all I really wanted out of this project was to see it there again, to have that evidence in my hands, to see it there. And it's not because, well, because of poor preservation, because no one thought to keep it, out there. And sure, there's probably a private collector out there who has the version somewhere in an archive, but it just wasn't publicized, so I wasn't able to find it. And I do hold out hope that somewhere, someone as dedicated as this idiot here kept a version of that. Kept a version where the golden egg appeared in Geo Jackson's name. And I hope that person's happy. See, there's a part of me that wants this imaginary person to publicize it, to put it on the internet, but I know that people have their reasons for not publicizing, like, lost media. And yeah, it sucks that it's not out into the public for everyone to see, but sometimes it's better that way. Sometimes it is better that way. Because, well, digital media, it lasts a long time. As good as forever. But as good as forever isn't forever. And oftentimes it's not good enough. There's a number of different reasons why digital media gets lost. And I'm not saying that physical media is any better, because honestly it isn't. Neither digital nor physical media are superior to each other. They both have their pros and cons. They both have their uses, and they can both be destroyed. And that's just something you have to come to terms with in terms of preservation, right? Because we can keep things. Sure, we can keep things, but it's only going to be as good as forever. Which, because we as human beings aren't going to be around forever either. So, logically, the things that we have here are temporary, but I think that's really where the phrase "as good as forever" really comes in, because sometimes we have to come to terms with that it's good enough. It's good enough. I didn't find what I was looking for, but I found an old, very old, 2011 version of Angry Birds on my red computer. My old computer. The one I used all the way back in 2010 when I was sick in the hospital. So, yeah, I think the conclusion of this is that it's all good enough. Yeah, I didn't find what I was looking for, and I possibly never will. But what I did find along the way, what I learned, and what I am able to share, I think that's good enough. So, that's it. That's as good as I can do. Thanks for the last 15 years. And here's to the next 15. Happy birthday, Angry Birds. I love you.
日